John Houseman, there's a theater on Broadway named after him, came to me and said, that was very interesting, but could you take several of his short stories and meld them into the character of Nick Adams, which you introduce in The Battler? So under his guidance, I then did an adaptation using several of his short stories called The World of Nick Adams. Robert Mulligan, a well-known director at the time, he said, Hotch, this is fine, but it's episodic. It's 5, but they have to be joined, and we need music. But he said, not just some canned music, but something that really has the spirit. And being very young and being very naive and inexperienced, I said, well, I was driving here this morning and listening to the car radio, and I heard a wonderful piece by a composer named Aaron Copland. And he said, you're going to ask Aaron Copland to write incidental music for a Hemingway short story that's going to be on a long hair, small audience? And I said, well, why not? It's very good. It was about springtime. He said, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll get you his phone number. So he gave me Aaron Copland. He got hold of Aaron Copland's phone number. And I called Aaron Copland and told him what I wanted him to do. Nicest man in the world. And he said, well, I'm very favorably inclined toward Mr. Hemingway as an artist. I'll meet you at the Harvard Club. So I met him at the Harvard Club, and I told him what I wanted to do. And he said, well, he would think about it. I gave him my script. And then I got this letter from Aaron Copland, which is a very valuable letter since he didn't write a lot of them. And what he says is, I have a pretty good opinion of its possibilities. My trouble is that the pressure of other commitments makes me despair of being able to sit down seriously and think through such a project until next year. I was about to go out of town now and at Tanglewood, and after which I head for England in December. So you see, I cannot do this. On the other hand, I can understand your wish to get it done, and I regret that I don't have the time. So there I was. I had no music. There were a few other things, and then all of a sudden, there arrived in the mail Copland score. And here it is. It's for chamber orchestra. It was performed simultaneously with the telecast of the performance. The telecast was in a big wheel. This is live television. It was divided into 5 or 6 units, and each one was a Hemingway scene connected with Aaron Copland music. And it was a great success. It was like nothing anybody had seen on television before. Soon after its appearance, I received an inquiry from a Hollywood producer named Jerry Wald. And I got hold of him and I said, do you want to do this? Add the stories and make it into a film with first-class movie stars. And he said, well, if it's 10 short stories, I want, my memory is $200,000, which at that time would be like 2-3 million today. And Jerry Wald wouldn't budge from $100,000, and so it almost ended there. Then I wrote her and said, no, I want to be sure it's all right with you. I'm telling him no and backing off. And there came a desperate phone call. No, take it. What can you get, 100,000? I can get that, take it. So we sold it. And this was Hemingway's last thing. And what I did was, I combined 10 short stories. And that's here, in this pile here. It was a lot of doing, because the short stories that I took for this were all over the place. All over this country, Montana and other places, Ketchum, Idaho, everywhere. And also places like Verona. And it meant shooting in Europe and doing things that were expensive. I called it Nick Adams. Then, later on, it went through several changes. The colored pages are pages that got substituted in between time. All of these changes, this is all unusual. Nobody has the process by which this shooting script, which is here, got developed. And anybody who has any interest in adapting the written word for movies or television would learn a lot from watching the metamorphosis of this. It was eventually released as Hemingway's Adventures of a Young Man. And it had a very good cast, Eli Wallach and others, Ricardo Montalban. There's pictures of the cast in Verona, in rehearsal. I think he would have liked it because I stayed true to every one of the short stories, even though they were all over the place.